If you haven't been a fan of the chill, we are going to be warming things up big time through a lot of Florida. What's going on, guys? Meteorologist Jonathan Kagas with you. We are also going to be pinpointing kind of a big system, especially for the northern half of Florida. We're going to break all of that down, and we're going to start with the rain coming through over the next several days, and then we'll talk about the warmth, and then a recap on the 2023 hurricane season. It is all over. It ends today, November 30th. If you want to stay updated on all things Florida weather, you have to hit subscribe. Please do that. If you happen to find this content helpful or informative, or you're just like nerding out about the weather, give this video a thumbs up. It's a small task, but it really does help us out a lot. All right, so the water vapor imagery, it tells the story. A couple of features I want to point out to you guys, and we have one of those right out here, little upper low that is driving the development of this blob coming out of the Texas area, North Gulf Coast, northern Gulf of Mexico. And this is kind of round one of some of the heavier rain, bigger system that's going to head in that direction. And then really, and I'll show you all the modeling and everything, but what's going to happen, we're going to have the trailing cold front kind of get hung up along the North Gulf Coast, and that's going to act as a pathway for some pretty heavy rain coming into Florida. So here we go. This is going to be later in the day on Thursday, and you see like blob number one get going. Here is the trailing cold front, and you see all the heavy rain. Let me get rid of that cold front here. Really kind of focusing on the panhandle of Florida, back toward Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and it's going to be kind of repeated rounds of heavy rain. There's Friday at 10 o'clock. The yellow and darker green represent the relatively speaking heavier rain. Once you start to get orange and red, that's when that rain gets really, really heavy, and you saw that kind of bullseye pop up just a minute ago. Saturday, 4 o'clock, we're still talking about some heavier rain from New Orleans to Pensacola to Tallahassee, Apalachicola, and then that continues as well. I want to show you the model estimate now. So that was the European model. These are the European model estimates here in terms of the amount of rain. You can clearly see here where we're going to be focusing the rain. I know my friends on the Gulf Coast of Florida, Tampa, St. Pete, Sarasota, we have a big drought on our hands. We need the rain. I do think gradually through winter, as we've been talking about a lot on this channel, that I do think there's going to be improvements, just not this time around. And again, I know we need it bad, but the heaviest rain, Destin, Pensacola, New Orleans, back into Tallahassee, Apalachicola, Port St. Joe, that's where the heaviest rain is going to fall from Friday through Saturday evening. Note again, there's some scattered showers towards Orlando, towards Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Naples, to the Keys, Miami, but it is few and far between those showers, and it is limited rain. It doesn't add to much into the rain gauge there. So that's what we're going to be watching for through the weekend. And again, several inches of rain going to be possible into the Panhandle and Big Bend of Florida from Friday into Saturday night, and then that will continue as well into Saturday. So that is what I have for you in terms of that system. We'll keep an eye on it for you, but the potential for flooding is going to be there right along the North Gulf Coast, and for my friends into the Panhandle, again, Tally from Pensacola into Port St. Joe, Apalachicola as well. Temperature-wise, we're doing better. If you haven't been a fan of this chill, now it is going to stay cool because of the extra clouds and rain into the Panhandle of Florida. And I will show you that in a second, but we're waking up to temperatures in the 50s and 60s, so no more frost potential for us on Friday, northwest of the I-4 corridor. That's where we've been dealing with some big-time frost. 5 o'clock on your Friday, warmest part of the day as you get into towards 3 or 4. Look at this. We're back into the 70s and 80s for most of Florida once we get into Friday afternoon. Little itty-bitty upper 60s there in Pensacola, but you get the drift that we are starting a big-time warming trend now. There's Saturday morning, 6 o'clock, 60s and 70s come back, so we are really breaking out of the chill come Saturday. And then look at this. You can tell where the rain is setting up, because really from Gainesville to Ocala, Tampa, all the way into South Florida and the Keys, we're back to the 70s and 80s. We're hanging on to the 60s and 70s, though, where we have the extra cloud cover and where we have the heavier rain falling. Now, once we get into Sunday, really the same deal. Still extra clouds and rain on the cooler side. We also have some cooler air coming back in by Sunday. That's going to give us high temperatures in North Florida, the Panhandle, Jacksonville, 60s and 70s, back to the mid to upper 70s towards the I-4 corridor, and then hanging on to the upper 70s and lower 80s in South Florida. So kind of that, it really depends upon what part of the state you're watching from. That's the different kind of weather that you are going to get getting into the weekend. All right, guys. It's all over. We got through it. Of course, the most impactful storm of the 2023 hurricane season happened to hit Florida. For my friends in the Big Bend and Panhandle, we're still thinking about you guys and hoping that recovery is going well. Another several billion-dollar disaster to impact the state as Idalia came ashore as a Category 3 hurricane. It maximized its intensity just before landfall at a Category 4. It went through an eyewall replacement cycle. It weakened, quote-unquote. That was a weakened Idalia, but nonetheless still caused extensive damage in the Florida Panhandle, Big Bend area. Cat 5 Hurricane Lee, that was the strongest hurricane of the season. Thankfully, that one stayed out at sea, as did most of these storms. Again, we were talking about this being the 4th most active hurricane season on record in terms of named storms. Now, we are naming more, better satellite data. We're naming the subtropical stuff and the garbage stuff, but I do want to point out that even from an ACE standpoint, so this is what you can't argue with it, oh, they name everything if it's a cloud out there, which isn't completely true. We do have better satellite technology. The Hurricane Center is able to determine if it has all those meteorological and scientific characteristics to get a name, even if they're way out into the ocean. But from a generated energy standpoint, that ACE number that we often talk about, that accumulated cyclone energy, still way above 145.6 is what we got this season. The average is just over 121. So from an energy generated standpoint, this was a very powerful season. This was a very active season. Thankfully, though, again, with the exception of my friends in the Panhandle and Big Bend, I know utterly impactful, catastrophic storm for us. But most of those storms did stay out to sea. I'll show you here kind of the map just to kind of show you what I'm talking about here. This is what the 2023 hurricane season looked like. All in all, a very quiet year for the Caribbean, as you would expect for an El Nino year. That's where the wind shear is really gone through. We had a few storms try to get going and then just never was able to materialize. Thankfully, of course, the biggest system was Idalia to impact land, and there you see its track right in through here. Category 5 Hurricane Lee, it reached Cat 5 status out here, well to the northeast of the Lesser Antilles, and was very, very powerful again up in this region. We had Lee again impact the Canadian Maritimes. We had Franklin that was strong. There it is out here. That was Franklin. I think I shared that was Lee. That was Franklin that kind of ran through. Lee was this way. There's a lot of lines on the map, but most of the action was out into the central Atlantic, thankfully. That's how we like it. If there are going to be storms, make them pretty and make them way out into the Atlantic, impacting no one but the fish. I know the shipping lanes are obviously impacted as well, but nonetheless, we love it when they don't impact land, of course. Thank you guys for trusting News 6 and this channel, clickorlando.com, for hurricane season. We really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. We had Tropics Watch live on this channel every Monday at 11. We'll continue that again next year, which is very far away into the future. Don't even want to think about 2024. But we got you covered here. And again, even though hurricane season is over, I'm expecting us to have many impactful weather events going through the winter. We've talked about this a lot on this channel because of El Nino really cranking up. We're seeing that again. This little blob in the Gulf is a spawn of that El Nino pattern, and it's just going to ramp up again as we continue through winter. So we've got you covered here. If you like talking about the weather, if you like keeping up with it, you've come to the right place, especially if you're focused on Florida. Hit that subscribe button for me, and if you happen to find this content helpful, which I hope you do, and if you didn't, let me know nicely. And if you want to see something change, post it in the comments. Open to everything. We're here for you guys. We have a lot of fun on this channel where we're not talking about impactful weather impacting people. Hit that subscribe button for me. We'll catch you next time.